Imagine ruling the most powerful nation on Earth for centuries, controlling 1/3 of the entire world's wealth, with foreign kings literally begging to trade with you. Now imagine watching it all collapse because of one plant. Not guns, not bombs, not some super weapon. A flower, a single flowering plant brought your entire civilization to its knees. This isn't fantasy. This is the story of how opium destroyed China's greatest empire. In the 1700s, China was the undisputed economic superpower of the world. European monarchs were desperate to get Chinese goods, but the Chinese emperor basically yawned and said, "We don't need anything you barbarians make." Fast forward just 100 years, and China was carved up by foreign powers. Millions of its people were addicted to drugs, and its 2,000-year-old imperial system was crumbling. This is how it happened. Hey, quick thing before we start. If you actually listen to these regularly, hit like or subscribe. I always wonder where everyone's at, so comment your city and what time it is. Weird to think some of you are having breakfast in England while I'm recording this at night, here in the States. Alright, let's head back to Qing Dynasty China. But hold on, get comfortable first. I mean it. Fix your pillows, grab that blanket. This one's worth settling in for. The year is 1800. Dawn breaks over Canton Harbour in southern China. Your eyes crack open to darkness inside the small room you've rented near the waterfront. The overwhelming smell of salt water, spices, and humanity drifts through the window. Outside, the sound of shouting merchants, creaking wood, and clanging metal fills the air as ships from across the world unload their goods. Unlike your modern memory foam mattress, you're lying on a wooden platform with a thin mat that does absolutely nothing to cushion your aching back. It's already hot, humid as hell, and you haven't even gotten up yet. You're in Canton, the only Chinese port where foreign merchants are allowed to trade, and let me tell you, there's no place on earth with more money flowing through it right now than this city. Hold up, you might be thinking. I thought European countries were the richest in the world during this time. That's what your history textbooks probably told you, but nope. Not even close. China was so economically dominant in 1800 that it produced over 1/3 of everything made on the entire planet. Think about that. One country making 1/3 of the world's stuff. That would be like if the modern United States, Japan, and Germany's economies were all combined into one superpower. European merchants were literally begging to be allowed to trade with China, and China's response? Basically, yeah, we're good, thanks. The Chinese emperor viewed the Western kingdoms as barbarian states with nothing of value to offer the Middle Kingdom. But what about all their cool inventions? Well, from China's perspective, they'd invented pretty much everything worth inventing already. Paper, Chinese. Printing, Chinese. Gunpowder, Chinese. Compass, Chinese. Porcelain so fine you could see through it. Silk so luxurious, European nobility would bankrupt themselves to own it. All Chinese. When foreign merchants arrived in Canton, they weren't treated as equals. They were barely tolerated, and the trading system was set up to keep it that way. Listen up, here's how this works, a local official explains as you watch Western merchants arrive. Foreigners can only trade in Canton, nowhere else in our vast empire. They can only live in these specific buildings outside the city walls called factories. Not actual factories, but trading houses. They cannot bring their wives or families. They cannot learn Chinese. They cannot travel into the Chinese interior. And most importantly, they can only trade through the approved Chinese merchants known as the Hong merchants. The most powerful of these Hong merchants is a man named Hao Kuo, and oh my god, this guy is rich, not just wealthy, not just successful businessman rich, we're talking the richest man on the planet rich. His personal fortune is estimated at around $26 million, which doesn't sound that impressive until you realise that's like multiple billions in today's money. The dude literally had rooms filled with silver. During a fire in 1822, witnesses described rivers of silver flowing through the streets as Hauqua's vaults melted in the flames. You're at the harbour watching a British East India Company ship unload, and you spot him, Hauqua, dressed in elegant silk robes, directing his army of clerks and assistants. His hands are clasped behind his back as he watches crates of silver being carried off the ship. "That's how the trade works," whispers a merchant standing next to you. "We bring silver, they give us tea, silk, and porcelain." It seems like a simple enough system. Europeans and Americans want Chinese luxury goods, especially tea, which had become an absolute obsession in England. The Chinese don't want European goods in return, so the Westerners pay in silver. The problem for the Western traders is that this arrangement is draining their treasuries dry. "We can't keep shipping all our silver to China," the merchant continues. "England's running out of the bloody stuff." You can see the frustration on the faces of the British traders. They're making money selling Chinese goods back home, but the trade imbalance is unsustainable. They need something the Chinese will buy, and that's where our story really begins, because the British found something that would turn this entire system upside down: opium. You see an unusual ship anchored in the harbour, flying no flags. The local Chinese seem to be avoiding it, yet small boats occasionally slip out to it under cover of darkness. "Turkish and Indian opium," the merchant explains. "Technically illegal in China, but..." He shrugs. Opium wasn't new to China. It had been used medicinally for centuries, usually eaten or drunk as a tincture to treat pain or illness. But something changed when Europeans introduced the practice of smoking it. "Come on," says the merchant, "I'll show you." He leads you through the crowded streets to a nondescript building a few blocks from the waterfront. Inside, the air is thick with sweet, acrid smoke. Men lie on wooden platforms, their eyes half closed as attendants prepare pipes for them. The pipes themselves are works of art, long stems with ornate metal bowls. You watch as an attendant heats a small ball of dark, sticky opium over a flame until it bubbles, then places it in the pipe bowl for a waiting customer. "One puff and your troubles fade away," the merchant says. "2 puffs and you're floating, 3 and you're in paradise." What you're witnessing is the beginning of something catastrophic. At this moment, opium is still primarily smoked by the wealthy elite. Government officials, rich merchants, men of leisure, it's a luxury drug, a status symbol. But that's about to change. The merchant leans in closer. The British East India Company has opium plantations all across Bengal now. They're producing thousands of chests of the stuff every year. And guess where it's all coming? He nods toward the harbour. A chest of opium contained about 140 pounds of the drug. In 1800, around 4,500 chests were being imported to China. That's 630,000 pounds of opium. And demand was growing. The following morning, you're back at the harbour. The activity is frenetic, goods moving in all directions, silver flowing into China, luxury goods flowing out. It's the most successful trading arrangement in the world, but it's balanced on a knife's edge. As you watch, a group of British merchants stands apart from the others, talking intently. You recognise one of them, William Jardine, a former ship's surgeon turned merchant. Next to him is his business partner, James Matheson. These 2 Scotsmen would eventually found Jardine, Matheson and Company, one of the most profitable drug smuggling operations in history. "The Chinese want to keep us confined to Canton," Jardine is saying, "but with fast clipper ships we can deliver opium all along the coast." You're witnessing the planning of what would become the most successful drug smuggling enterprise in history, and the Chinese government has no idea what's coming. Back in the trading factory, you observe the complex dance of commerce. The Chinese Hong merchants are in a difficult position. They're immensely wealthy, but they're caught between the demands of the imperial government and the foreign traders they deal with. They're responsible for the foreigners' behavior and are expected to ensure taxes are paid and regulations followed. Hao Kuo is clever, someone comments. He's investing much of his fortune overseas through his American partners. He doesn't trust the imperial officials not to seize it. Smart move on his part, because the system that's made him the richest man on earth is about to come crashing down. Later that day, you're invited to a banquet hosted by Hao Kuo himself for his American trading partners. It's an extraordinary honor rarely extended to foreigners. His mansion is a vision of luxury, exquisite gardens, priceless antiques, and a banquet that stretches on for hours with dozens of exotic dishes. 15 courses, an American merchant whispers to you. Bird's nest soup, shark fins, pigeon eggs. This feast alone probably cost more than most people make in a year. What's fascinating is the relationship between Hao Kuo and these American traders. They've developed a genuine friendship and mutual respect that transcends business. The Americans help manage Hao Kuo's overseas investments, and he gives them preferential treatment in Canton. As the evening winds down, Hao Kuo raises a toast to prosperity and friendship between our peoples. Everyone drinks, but there's tension in the air. The Americans know what's coming with the opium trade, and they're conflicted. One of them, Robert Bennett Forbes, would later write to his wife, "I made my first fortune by the same," referring to opium, while acknowledging the drug was demoralizing the minds and destroying the bodies and draining the country of money. The merchants are already getting rich, but they have no idea how much wealthier and how much more destructive this trade is about to become. Back in your room that night, you lie on your uncomfortable bed, the sounds of the harbour drifting through the window. You've witnessed Canton at the height of its glory, the centre of global trade, where the world's wealth flows through the hands of merchants like Hao Kuo. But something fundamental is shifting. The balance of power that has favoured China for centuries is beginning to tilt. In the next decade, the amount of opium smuggled into China will increase tenfold. The drug will spread from the elite to ordinary people across the empire. Silver will begin flowing out of China instead of in. And the emperor in Beijing, thousands of miles away from Canton, will finally realize too late that his great empire faces an existential threat. Not from armies or navies, from a flower, from the milky sap of the poppy plant, processed into a sticky resin that produces the most intense euphoria humans had ever experienced. As you drift off to sleep, the sweet, sickly smell of opium smoke drifts in through your window. All around you, in hidden rooms and behind closed doors, more and more Chinese are taking up the pipe. The addiction is spreading. And with it, the seeds of destruction for the world's greatest empire are being sown. Not with a bang, but with the soft hiss of opium smoke being drawn through an ornate pipe. In the moonlight, ships continue to arrive in Canton Harbour. On their manifests, silver, cotton, wool, but in hidden compartments, thousands of balls of opium, ready to be sold to eager Chinese buyers. Each chest of opium is stamped with the symbol of the British East India Company, the very institution that had been granted a monopoly on trade by the British Crown, now the world's biggest drug dealer. You close your eyes, the humidity making it hard to sleep, thinking about how something as simple as a trade imbalance and a flowering plant is about to change the course of human history. Tomorrow, Canton will wake up and continue its business, unaware that the entire system is about to collapse, unaware that this golden age of Chinese prosperity is coming to an end. And it all starts here, with a pipe, with smoke, with dreams, with addiction, with opium. The morning fog hangs over Canton Harbour as a new day begins. 10 years have passed, it's now 1830, and everything has changed. What you're about to witness isn't just the story of a drug taking hold of a nation. New day begins. 10 years have passed, it's now 1830, and everything has changed. What you're about to witness isn't just the story of a drug taking hold of a nation, it's the tale of how the world's economic order flipped upside down in the span of a single generation. Silver. For centuries, it flowed into China like a mighty river. Now, it's hemorrhaging out, bleeding away at a rate that would give an economist a heart attack. You're probably thinking, how bad could it really be? I mean, it's just some people smoking in back rooms, right? Wrong. Let me paint you the picture. You're walking through a narrow alley in Canton. The smell hits you first, that distinct, sweet, acrid scent of opium smoke that now permeates every corner of the city. You step into what looks like an ordinary tea house, but inside, the scene is anything but ordinary. The room is dim, illuminated only by small oil lamps. The air is thick with bluish smoke that hangs in layers. On wooden platforms covered with bamboo mats lie dozens of people, not just the wealthy merchants and officials you saw a decade ago. Everyone, and I mean everyone. There's a government clerk, his official cap set aside as he takes long draws from his pipe. Next to him is a dock worker, his muscles wasted from months of choosing the pipe over food. In the corner, a woman who once ran a successful silk shop stares vacantly at the ceiling. A Buddhist monk still in his saffron robes lies motionless nearby. What happened here? You whisper to the attendant who's preparing a pipe for a new customer. He shrugs. Cheaper opium, lots of it. Anyone can afford it now. And he's right. In 1820, about 4,500 chests of opium were being smuggled into China annually. By 1830, that number had exploded to nearly 20,000 chests. We're talking about 2.8 million pounds of opium every single year. But here's where it gets truly insane. By 1838, it would reach 40,000 chests. That's 5.6 million pounds of opium flowing into a single country annually. Picture 2,800 tons of drugs. That's roughly the weight of 500 elephants worth of opium entering China each year. Outside the den, you pass a small group of British merchants huddled in conversation. You recognise one. William Jardine, who you saw a decade earlier. He's no longer just a merchant. He's now one of the wealthiest men in Asia. The new clipper ships are magnificent, he tells his associates. 32 days from Calcutta to Linton Island. The Chinese patrol boats can't touch us. His partner, James Matheson, nods in agreement. We've got warehouses full on Linton now. The local smugglers take it from there. Linton Island, just outside Chinese territorial waters, had become an offshore base for the opium trade. Western ships would anchor there, beyond the reach of Chinese law, and transfer their illegal cargo to fast Chinese smuggling boats that would deliver it up the Pearl River to Canton and beyond. It's like they invented DoorDash for drugs, you might be thinking, and honestly, that's not far off. But the real genius, or evil, depending on your perspective, of the Western opium merchants wasn't just their smuggling network, it was how they solved their original problem, the trade imbalance. Here's how it worked now. British merchants would grow opium in India, controlled by the British East India Company, ship it to China and sell it to Chinese smugglers for silver. Then they'd use that silver to buy Chinese tea, silk and porcelain. The trade deficit had flipped. Now silver was flowing out of China at an alarming rate. You witness a meeting between Hao Kuo and several other Hong merchants. The stress on their faces is evident. The price of silver has doubled in 10 years, one says grimly. Our currency is collapsing. Hao Kuo nods, his expression grave. The provincial government demands we stop the opium trade, yet their own officials are the biggest customers.